What's going on, everyone? This is an Earl Ford Bronco. It's a second-gen Bronco. It doesn't say what year. It's a really... I've never seen this one before. I can't find it on eBay. It's in pretty much loose mint condition. Really cool truck. It would definitely be better with rubber tires, but it's in such good condition and it's so hard to find. I'm just going to leave it. This came as a gift from Esoteric Nixon. The sweet truck. I really hope Greenlight does this at some point. As a matter of fact, this is the best one out there so far, but you have to do some changes to it to get it to look right. This is a 1980 Ford Bronco here from Racing Champs. It's a Johnny Lightning tooling. Johnny Lightning has never released it. It's always been Racing Champs, which in this case is probably good because it gets the round 2 level of detail. Although this one has been lifted, and these are Greenlight wheels and tires. But these trucks look great when you give them a proper stance with proper wheels and tires. If Greenlight were to do this truck, I would imagine it would look something like this, probably a little bit better. But this is still a really nice truck. I like it. Got a whole bunch of 4x4s out here to take a look at. A whole bunch of other just real random stuff that I pulled out. Like this Jeep Grand Wagoneer. This is Johnny Lightning here. But again, it's a round 2 release, so a very decent amount of detail. Now these aren't the wheels and tires that came on the truck. I had to use those for a Land Cruiser. So I put these wheels and tires on it instead. And these tires, this truck has never been released with these, I don't think with these wheels or tires. But these tires still allow for plenty of articulation. They don't impede the rollability of the car at all. Really cool casting. I always liked these. It's basically a... You know, if you're a station wagon person, which I think a lot of people are now, they never were back in the 90s. But, you know, if you are a station wagon enthusiast, this is essentially a 4-wheel drive station wagon. But it's a really cool looking vehicle. I had one of these at one point in my life. I had a 1984, and I actually have the one that I had. It's the first one that they released back in 2015. It's maroon with wood paneling. That's the exact truck that I had. I paid like, I don't know, I had it in 1999, or it might have been 2000. So it was 16 years old when I had it. I think I paid $400 for it. It was fun to drive. It was turned a lot of heads, probably for the wrong reasons. Mine didn't have this aggressive stance like this one does. But whatever, got me around. Had the big Buick 360. So there are some four-wheel drives that we're going to look at, but there's also some other cars that I got out. Just random stuff like this Kyosho Lotus Europa. Very cool little car. Looks a lot like the Tomica Premium, but obviously this is probably, well, no probably about it. In my opinion, this is nicer than the Tomica. This is true 164. And unlike the Tomica, this has rubber tires. Both the Tomica and the Kyosho have prototypical wheels, and I think they both have lens headlights and taillights. I'm not sure if the Tomica has lens taillights though. Really cool car though. Likely the best example of that car in 1 to 64. Let's look at this one. One of my favorites from Kyosho. So I've got a I've got a Konami Mazda Savannah, which is basically the Mazda 3. But this was actually billed as a Mazda RX3 from Kyosho. I've also got a really nice Aoshima. I really like this body style. There was a guy who had one of these featured on Jay Leno's Garage, and it was primer gray. And where this one is chrome, that one was black. And the black on the primer gray is a great look for this car. But I really dig the Mazda RX3. I like all the Mazdas though. RX3, RX5, RX7, RX8, MX6, 626, 323, Mazda 3. I like them all. I think Mazda makes some really cool cars. Even today, they're a little bit more stylish than a lot of other brands. A lot of cars have kind of lost their souls. But I don't know, some of the Japanese brands have done a good job trying to bring that back. Nissan, well, I'm not a big fan of their late model cars. I think they do a really nice job with the styling. But I do like Mazda, especially vintage Mazda. I don't know what year this would have been. Probably early 70s. I think Kyosho nailed this one. I would love to find this in a lighter color. And then trade this one or sell it. Or take those wheels off of it. Really cool car that is. Another interesting import, this Maserati, also from Kyosho. this one also has some pretty intricate wheel detail. That is a cool looking car. Another one too. This one I just sold, but I have it out, so we'll take a look at it. These are the two Kyosho Maseratis that I have. Although the red one is on its way out. Not really sure which one I like better, because I do kind of have a fondness for both. Italian engineering back in the late 60s through the 70s was just really awesome. They made some awesome looking cars. Okay. Got this. This is a UCC Coffee Car. Little Gwagen Mercedes. I don't believe there are I don't think there are many of these produced in 1/64. Certainly not that would qualify for premium detail. And this one is pretty nice. I think if Kyosho were to do it, it would probably be better. That is painted taillight detail. Does have lensed headlights, and it's a nice little car. It's got a great stance, which is important to me. It has some really soft rubber tires. So it's definitely worth having, and this is a very affordable casting. I think you can get these around $10 shipped. But it is pretty basic. A lot of detail. It's probably scaled right. It's proportioned nicely. But other than that, it's pretty basic. But Kyosho's outside of the detail are pretty basic as well. Here's an example of another Kyosho. Here's the base of a Kyosho. That's how basic it is. And some people don't like that, but like personally, I don't care because the cars are so amazing. And you don't see the base anyways, so it's like, who cares? Look at this XJ. Insane amount of detail. And Kyosho never misses on the stance. Transparent lens taillights there with indicators. I love it. This car is so low to the ground, so sleek. I bet you it's lower than the Ford GT. So, assuming that these are scale accurate, it's pretty close. So I didn't bring one out, but I'm glad that Greenlight did the Ford GT. And I'm glad that they did it well. Because you can actually display the Greenlight next to this and it looks like it belongs. Because this is just about as good as it gets for 1:64 scale when you're talking about detail and accuracy. So any 1:64 scale car that can be displayed next to an auto art and look like it belongs is going to be pretty well done. And I don't think all Greenlight castings meet that criteria. I think there's a decent amount of them that would not look good displayed next to this. But the GT that they do definitely holds up. It's just an awesome looking car. I actually saw one of these driving down the highway the other day. I had never seen one of these in person before. And it was like it was a darker blue color with a white stripe. I love that car. Let's see how the Greenlight Hakoska. Yeah, I don't know. It's probably pretty close scale and proportionately. I think the Hako stance would be a little bit lower, but it would still sit nowhere near as low as this. Auto Art got that about as low as you can go. Probably go a little bit lower, but Greenlight could have gone a lot lower with this Hako. And that's what I'm talking about. Greenlight, the stance is always going to be the first thing they screw up on a casting. And premium brands like Auto Art and Kyosho, you never have those issues, ever. I've never seen a Kyosho that had a bad stance. There's a Toyota. Color on this thing is just awful for video. I should have bought the gold one. If only I had known then what I know now. But I still really like the truck. I'm watching Joe Rogan podcast with the owner of Icon 4x4. He actually did the Rogan podcast. And they talk a lot about the Toyota Land Cruisers. And with as popular as these trucks are, all generations, from the beginning all the way on through to today, they have such a cult following that I can't believe there aren't. I mean, there's really nothing in 1:64 scale other than the Matchbox, this Kyosho, this Johnny Lightning. Hot Wheels did a crappy one. Tomica Limited Vintage did what I would call the least desirable Land Cruiser. So it's just kind of mind-boggling that nobody has done the FJ62 or the FJ80. But at least we have a couple of nice examples. Obviously, Kyosho is always going to give you the most realistic look. But, you know, for this BJ40, the Johnny Lightning casting is very respectable. It's probably a little bit small for scale, but I think they do a nice job executing it, and especially with round 2. And this one here is the Bishop exclusive, and I am so happy to own this one. I think another wave of these just hit the US because the price has come down quite a bit. And it's funny because it seems like now it's the Indonesian police truck that's bringing all the money. This is still a pretty expensive piece, though. It's not $100 casting anymore, but it's also not a $20 casting. So you're going to find it somewhere in the middle. But I just love the TRD Deco on it. I'm all about that. Any 1/64 scale Toyota that I find with this Deco, I will try to own. But I know a lot of them are very expensive. Like the Hot Wheels 100% Tundra. I used to have that. I traded it. That was a big mistake. But this one, I love it. Glad to have it. Here's a cool Kyosho. Lancia Delta HF. Integral, I don't know. Evoluzione. All those Italian words. Beautiful car in yellow. Nice little hatchback. Awesome looking prototypical wheels. Kyosho is all about those wheels. They are the best in the business. Awesome looking front end. Lancia is an automotive brand that has kind of grown on me a little bit. I'm going to try to speed this up a little because I still have quite a few more. Nissan Safari. Tomica Limited Vintage. Another awesome truck. With some pretty incredible detail. But that, my friends, is just par for the course with Tomica Limited Vintage. So if Kyosho were to do this, I would imagine it would look very similar to the TLV. But I don't think it would have quite the quality, quite the textile feel to it. because Tomica Limited Vintage castings are usually a little heavier than Kyosho because most of them use metal base, although this one is a plastic base because it's just a large casting. But it's a really cool truck. I like it. But I don't like it quite as much as this. This is one of my favorite Kyosho castings in my collection, the G-Wagon. It's one of those cars that will not ever leave my collection. I bought a pair of these. I bought this one and the pearl white. I bought them as a pair probably a year and a half ago, 2 years ago maybe, for $25 shipped. And I traded the white one, and I regret it because I don't think you can find these for under $40 at this point. Very desirable, very sought after. It's by far the nicest G-Wagon in the scale. The Maisto sucks compared to this. The Majorette sucks compared to this. The Matchbox, obviously, that goes without saying. This is by far and away the nicest. It is scale accurate. You have prototypical wheels with rubber tires, lens headlights and taillights. Very authentic replica. Now, I am glad, I'm glad that I kept the silver one. Although I wish I had kept both. The white one looks good too. I have a thing for silver cars in this scale. I hate it. I hate silver in 1:1 scale, but I love silver in 1:64. I mean, here's another example of a fantastic looking silver car. The Alfa Romeo. I think this is called a sports wagon. Yep. And it's pretty sweet looking. Okay, what else? This Land Rover Defender. This is made by Shoeco. Shoeco is another premium import brand. It's a high level of detail. They're usually pretty heavy, definitely heavier than Kyosho, probably heavier than TLV. These castings feature metal body, metal base, prototypical wheels. Most of them have lensed headlights. In this case, you do get lensed headlights, but all the indicators, all the tail lights, all of that stuff is painted. I think probably they're just painted because of the size. They are quite small. Full-size rubber spare. And there are a lot of windows on this truck. For being a small two-door off-road vehicle, to have 9 windows, it's pretty impressive. I like that one. This one, as seen in the last video, I won't spend too much time on this, but I just really have an appreciation for this casting. I would love to find the other civilian decos. They're just so expensive because they've only done this casting in a civilian deco 3 times. You have this one from Hitch and Tow. There's a blue one from County Roads or Country Roads. And then there's a champagne colored one from the Ford dealership Diorama. And those other 2 are impossible to find. This one is tough to find, but you can find it. There's usually at least a few of these on eBay at all times. But the blue one and the dealership one don't show up on eBay very often. And when they do, people want between $20 and $30 for them. Which in actuality is probably pretty close to what they're worth. I just don't want them that bad. But if I ever find them for the right price or for a trade, I would definitely try to get them. So it's cool having 2 of these because I can use one for trade bait if I ever need to. So that only leaves 1, 2, 3 more. So let's do this one first. I know I say it a lot, but this is another hard to find casting. This is a Kyosho 4-door Ken Mary Skyline. And Kyosho Skylines in general are becoming harder and harder to find. I don't know what's going on with Kyosho, but they really don't seem to be producing very much of anything anymore. I talked to the toy pimp about it actually at his house last week. He seemed a little puzzled by it and maybe moderately concerned about it. They just aren't making anything right now. They're not releasing anything right now. But I've noticed as I've collected Kyosho for the last 2 to 3 years, they're getting fewer and fewer and further between. You're just not seeing them, even online. Although this one did recently show up online in silver. And it was actually very affordable too. But I should have bought it because as hard as this car is to find, I should have bought it. Because I like silver better than green. But I do love the shape of this car. I love the lines of the car. I wish it were silver so that they would show through better than they do. The ass of the car does seem to sit up a little bit. It seems to rake towards the front. I'm sure that's accurate though, because Kyosho is on point with their stances. But I just love the look of this car from every angle. I love it. I love the stance. I love the wheelbase. I love the lines. It has the iconic surf line that the Skyline is known for. It's got beautiful lens tail lights. And beautiful lens headlights with very nice looking fender mounted side view mirrors. All kinds of chrome trim. It's just a really nice car. So, very cool. I love it. And then that gets us down to the last 2. So we'll look at this Kyosho Ferrari 308. I have been on somewhat of a Kyosho vintage European kick the last couple months. And I had to have one of these. There are still a couple more Ferraris that I need to get. I need to get the 512. But I'm not in as much of a hurry to get it now. I still will get it, but I really want to try to get the Tomica Limited Vintage. I have a feeling those cars are going to be astronomical when they come out. Especially the F40. I wouldn't be surprised if those cars were $100 a piece. Every collector and their mom is going to want one. Except my mom. She has zero interest in die-cast cars. But as of right now, Kyosho, by far and away, make the nicest Ferrari cars in 1-64. You will not find better. Dido didn't do a better job. Maisto doesn't do a better job. Hot Wheels certainly didn't do a better job. So, and I don't even think this is up for debate, but feel free to leave your thoughts below. If there is another brand that is making 1-64 scale Ferraris, or that has made 1-64 scale Ferraris in the last 20 years or so, and you think they did a better job than Kyosho, please comment, because I would love to hear about it so I could look into it. The good thing, though, is that the Barago Ferrari licensing is no longer exclusive. Now, what all that entails, I don't know. I don't know if that means that Hot Wheels is going to go after it, or I don't know if Barago is subleasing the licensing out to Tomica. I don't know what's going on, but it's definitely not exclusive, because Tomica has been putting out Ferraris and they are going to continue to do so. And I, for one, cannot wait. All right, the last car that we're going to take a look at, one of my all-time favorites. This very seriously might be my next actual car. The Toyota FJ. I can't believe they stopped making these. But I fully believe that these cars, or trucks rather, are going to garner a cult following the same way the old BJs did, and every Land Cruiser in between, because essentially that's what this car is. It's kind of like a throwback Land Cruiser, because the current Land Cruisers like this are very soccer mom, luxury, more luxury, less utility. Now, don't get me wrong, you could still accomplish quite a bit off the beaten path with one of these. It'll go pretty much anywhere you want to put it. But this is designed with more utility in mind. It's got a better wheelbase. The floors are all plastic composite, just like a Jeep. You can spray it out if you need to. Very utilitarian here. And it's a very capable four-wheel drive truck. I used to sell Toyotas, and back in 2010. Back then, they were still making the FJ. But what I'll say, a lot of people that owned them would come in. The biggest complaint that they had was the blind spot. There's a massive blind spot back here because of that panel. But I love it. I love the look. It looks very much like a Toyota. And it looks, to me, it has a lot of similarities to the old Land Cruisers. The way the front grille is. So I really do want to buy myself one of these when my Lexus takes a crap. Because not only do I think it'll be fun to own one of these, but I think later on it'll be pretty cool to have one, because I think that they're going to get harder to find, and I think that the price on these will always stay strong. And it's such a unique looking car. I mean, this is so far from a cookie cutter car, which is mostly what you see today on the roads. This has a very unique look to it. So, in case you couldn't tell, I love my Toyotas. Although I only brought 3 of them out for this video. I should do a detailed Toyota video. I've done them in the past, but I've acquired quite a bit of new stuff. Like this Corolla back here, for example. Awesome little rally car. Holy cow, 41 minutes. Wasn't planning on that. There's a nice comparison there of a Kyosho SUV and Greenlight SUV. Both of those very worthy of sitting next to each other on the display shelf. But I am a big fan of off-road vehicles. I love four-wheel drive. And I'll end the video recapping the 4x4s. So, thank you as always for checking out the video. You all have a good Sunday. Hopefully the Broncos win, and hopefully I can pull out a miraculous fantasy football win. I'm getting my ass whooped because I'm up against Brady and White, and those two guys smashed it Thursday night, so I need a lot of help. But anything is possible, so happy die casting.